Hey folks, how you doing? I'm going to talk about the hieroglyphs, you know, the ancient Egyptian writing. Well, hieroglyphs, yeah, is a Greek word, okay? But it applies to what they call the Medu Netter, the divine word. Medu means word, Netter means divine or sacred, okay? So the sacred word, divine word, etc. Okay. Now, why is it the divine word? Well, for one thing, the hieroglyphic writings contain the wisdom of the world, the whole world. And people say, well, that's nonsense. He don't know what he's talking about. But no, it's true. Okay. Now, we know that there was desert warfare between the Americans and the Germans and the Allies, the British, the Americans fighting against the Germans. And what they're fighting up and down the Sahara Desert. Why? You see, it had to do with information that was in the tombs, okay, of the ancient priests of ancient Egypt, okay, that they had with them buried hieroglyphic writings, okay, or the Medu Netter, okay, and on the tomb walls they had all these drawings, pictures, and reliefs. They contained information that would lead to the uncovering of knowledge from within the people, okay. So it was very important, you see. But what happened? Well, the Germans lost the Second World War. Okay, that's the war I'm talking about. But before that, they had uncovered information from the tombs. You see what I mean? And they could use it in their military efforts. And they did, but they got to it too late, okay? Well, what did they do anyway? Well, the Germans came up with the first missile, because they used to shoot the missiles over there to England and bomb England during World War II, okay? They came up with the first jet plane in World War II. But they didn't really develop it and get it out there in the battle soon enough because the war was coming to an end quickly, okay? So it was a little too late for the jet plane to really help them, you know what I mean? What else did they do? Well, they were working on the atomic bomb. You see what I mean? Where did they get the information from? From the hieroglyphic writings. That's what they were there fighting for in the desert, actually. They wasn't fighting over sand. Okay, they were fighting over this information, and the Germans, they got a good bit of it, and apparently they knew how to use it. You know, they uncovered some big things. Okay, sure, you know what I mean. The missiles, the first missiles, rockets. Okay, the jet plane, and the atomic bomb. They started on the atomic bomb, and actually it was their scientists that finished it here in America. And in Russia. They soon after got the atomic bomb, you know. So we know now that knowledge is there. So a curator of the British Museum of Egyptian Antiquities, one of them, said that if you knew, okay, what those hieroglyphs, what they had in the museum, those hieroglyphs and all the antiquities, we could uncover what they really mean, it would change the whole world. And he was right. Well, people should pay attention to this. You know what I mean? So anyway, the French, the British, they got all the information. They even fought a war down there. They got all the information that they could, you know what I mean, and took it back to Europe. Why? The wisdom of the world is contained in those writings. That's why. You understand? People today, they have scholars who study the hieroglyphic writings, the artifacts, to this day. Because they, even though they sort of deciphered the hieroglyphs, but there's something that they can't decipher all of them. They don't know what all of it means. Okay? Not only that, the ancient Egyptian priests, who knew a good bit of it, could not decipher all the hieroglyphs themselves. Why? Because they were so ancient. You see, they were ancient to the ancient Egyptians. You see, they were the works of the ancestors. When their ancestors were alive, of course. Okay? Yeah. So the hieroglyphic writings were important on ancient times. They were important during the Second World War. And they're important after the Second World War. They're important now. Understanding the hieroglyphs doesn't seem like much. Some people might say, well, it's foolishness. Those are little writings of ducks. You know what I mean? Ancient tools that the folks use. All these. But these tools have an underlying meaning. They have a mystical meaning. Okay? So when people read the ancient scripture, okay, they just take usually what they call the exoteric view. In other words, the ordinary view. Okay? They don't get into the underlying view, the underlying principle called the esoteric. You must get into the underlying principle of the hieroglyphs. Not only that, any scripture of any religion, you must get into the underlying principle, the esoteric understanding. You see, then you begin to uncover a knowledge of things, you see, because you have the underlying principle. For example, we have one principle. Understanding this principle gives rise to many different things, you see. Understand the underlying principle, and knowledge will pour forth from in you. Okay. This is the value of the hieroglyphs, the wisdom of the world. Thank you, folks.